Hey guys, long time no see. So at the moment I'm putting together a new formicarium for my glaber ants. They've currently outgrown their formicarium, so the only way I can think of really cleaning it is by making another and just introducing them. So that way they'll be so busy that I'll actually be able to get in there and clean up. Hopefully they'll end up shifting their whole colony over to this new formicarium. So I've got a few chambers here that I've made. Basically, on the underside here, I've painted them with a light coat of paint. This paint I've got off eBay, and it's glow-in-the-dark paint. Green is supposed to be the colour that ants' eyes are most sensitive to, so they're supposed to be able to see green the best. So this will provide an extended range of daylight hours, hopefully. And then this one I've used white glow-in-the-dark paint for. So that'll be visually better for me to see the ants in, and it'll also have a wider range of colours, so it may also end up being better for them as well. Anyway, I'm sure it probably will have little effect. I've also got a few new items that I'm adding to my formicarium here that I haven't used before. So I've got a few of these. A 4-way adapter for these air bubble hoses, it's a silicon air bubble hose, which is really malleable and it won't split. Also got a corner piece or two. Notice how they're clear. They're actually quite hard to get clear. Also got a couple of wire junctions. These are bigger than they look. I'll actually have to slip them onto an 8mm pipe. What I'm using this one here for is slipping one end onto an 8mm pipe, and then I've got two removable chambers which can either be used for feeding, water, or they can just be used as an extension for housing. They didn't quite fit, so basically I've just made them a little bit bigger with a little bit of silicone. If you can see that. So I'm going to glue these onto the percolite like last time. So obviously I want to put the coat of paint on first. I put a coat of paint on here and here as well. Obviously green here, and then this is white. So my white container is going to be sitting on here, so it's basically going to have the equivalent of 2 coats of paint. My green container is going to be here. I've been experimenting with new ways to add water to my system. So here I have a bit of a monstrosity. So this monstrosity is basically an experimental chamber. It was made with the intention of adding and experimenting with new ways of hydrating my formicarium and providing water to my ants, humidifying it. Over here I have just one chamber on my formicarium already set up. You'll see it's at 79% humidity and 15 degrees Celsius. So I've just drilled a hole and put a simple probe into it. This monstrosity is designed so I can put a probe in it easily. But it's also designed with several other humidification or hydration methods to be fixed to it. So I can experiment with each individually or use them all at once if I really wanted to. The first I'll mention is basically this. It's got a lot of hot glue gun glue around it. as you can see. I've got some ring magnets off of eBay. I've slipped one over the top of a plug for one of my test tubes. So as you can see, this is a plug for a test tube. And the magnet fits over it perfectly there. I've got this super fine stainless steel mesh off of eBay. Stainless steel so it can't rust. Basically what I've done is I've put the stainless steel mesh over the top of the test tube like this. Sorry, trying to do things with one hand here. So if you put the magnet over the top of the test tube, you put it on there after you've put the silicone mesh on there. Like so. I don't want to ruin this mesh at the moment. I probably should have mentioned actually, you drill a hole straight through this first. Straight through the center. And then you put the mesh over it, and then you put that over it. And then you glue it all together. You drill a hole through your container. You snip off the edges of this with a pair of cable tie clippers. It's quite easy actually. And then you glue it all together, yep. And you'll have that, basically. And then you get another magnet and you put it over the top of a test tube that already has some carbon filter wall in it. On the other end of the test tube, you want to drill a small hole. And in that hole, you place a removable syringe tip. One that can be taken on and off of a syringe of your choice of size. I've gone with the largest one I could possibly get, which is 100 mils. On the other end of this syringe tip, I've plugged in an elbow piece for a air bubbler, fish tank air bubbler. I've then put in a tap. On my syringe, I've put an air bubbler hose on it, a tap, and then a valve, which I can attach to this tap at any point and fill it with water. So once it's full of water, I can then just fix it straight here like this. And it's fixed via a magnet. And the ants can't escape, although it has a small little gap in there at the moment. I basically need to make a better gasket for it. It might seal itself eventually because the hot glue gun glue is quite soft. But when you remove it, the ants can never escape because there's this fine mesh that will stop even the smallest of ants. At the bottom here of this container, I've drilled a hole. I've covered it with the fine mesh, like this hole here. Only on the underside. I've lined up a vinyl tube with it perfectly. The vinyl tube then goes into the top of a test tube plug. So basically, when this is a humidity chamber and the humidity condensates on the roof, it will then rain down and drip. And any of that rain will drip through this mesh if there's too much, and hopefully go down here and collect. Alternatively, if I'm not using any other hydration method for this chamber, I could fill this up with water and use it as a humidity chamber that the ants can't directly drink from, but it would humidify the air. So this covered hole here is going to have a tube on it, and it's going to have a tap on it, and that's going to be my ventilation that I can turn on and off whenever I want. These two are going to be hoses. This is a syringe tip that goes directly into a test tube on the inside. It's actually sealed up on the inside as well, so it can't actually leak out of the test tube. And there's carbon filter wall on the top, so I can directly inject water into that test tube from the outside and the ants can never get in. So that's another humidity method that I've got going in here, in this one. But the ants can actually drink from this one, and this one here the ants might be able to drink from. I'm not sure. Probably not properly. So this was a bit of an experimentation, and it's a bit of a monster. At the moment, with this new chamber that I'm about to get going, I've got this big bottle that I can fill up whenever I want. And if you have a look at this hose, it goes all the way to the bottom. So there's about a litre in there, or a couple of litres. Basically the ants can't get out of there unless there's no water. And it gives them direct access if I really want them to have direct access to the water. I'll be plugging this vinyl tube onto here and connecting the other end straight to this chamber. It's basically kept it at a pretty decent humidity. I've only just taken it off recently. And there's a small tap down here, so I can close it if the humidity gets too great. At the moment, it's been too great. It's been providing too much humidity, so it could ruin a nesting chamber. They might think it's a good area to go and then get drowned. Anyway, I'll provide you with updates.